greatest gifts God gives us is our calling, a holy purpose of why I'm here on this earth and what I'm meant to accomplish. And yet, if I were to sit across from you over coffee and ask, what is your calling? Could you tell me? Could you clearly define or write down what you're called to do and to accomplish? See, most of us, I think, we're intimidated by that question. We think we know what we're called to, but it's a little blurry and we're not sure if we're doing it well or if we're making a difference. And it brings a lot of fear and intimidation about that. And so I want to talk to you about how you can discover beyond a shadow of doubt what your calling is. My name is Matt. I'm a pastor in church ministry for many years. Welcome to my YouTube channel called Embrace Your Calling. We're talking about calling today. Would you like this? Would you subscribe? Would you share it? And I'd love to hear what resonates with you as we talk about discovering what you're called to. Now, we many times can see calling in other people, especially when it's more pronounced. Like you can see it in sports. Man, she or he is so gifted there. Or we see it like in business. Man, they've made a lot of money doing this. They were sure called, or they're brilliant. Or in music. I was musical. So, man, they're so talented musically. You can see it in all areas. But what about me? What if it didn't come as naturally to you? Some callings are very visible and bright and shiny, and many callings are subtle, unpronounced, understated, but they're just as significant and powerful as those who are in the spotlight. And I want to tell you today, you have a specific calling that is unique to you, that you're gifted in, that God has built you for, that there's a purpose in your life. In fact, I think finding your calling is so important to your well-being, your health, that if you don't feel like you're fulfilling your purpose, making a difference, if you don't manifest what's on the inside and get it on the outside, you're not going to be fulfilled. And I think you know this. So we're going to talk about how we discover it. I'm going to talk about how I've discovered my calling in life. First, I want to differentiate for us. There's a difference between calling and career. Don't think that you're going to fulfill all of your calling in your career. Now, I'm a pastor, and so I get to live out a lot of my calling in my career. And before I was a pastor, pastoring a church, building team, I actually was a musician. And I want to talk about that again, because again, music was a bit more pronounced. And I got to, even in the church world, fulfill a lot of my musical gifts and passions in the church. But even in music, I realized, I don't get to do the music I want to do. I do what the leadership wants me to do. I don't just get to work with the best professional musicians. I have to work with volunteer church members and teach them how to do it. You see? And when I was a pastor to plant a church, and I had that in me, and that was manifest out, there were many parts of it that weren't exciting. They weren't calling. It was problem solving. It was management. It was set up, tear down. I hate physical work. I had to do road cases in schools to set up church. But here's the key, is I learned a lesson a long time ago. Don't make your career responsible for your calling. You may be able to only have a fraction of your calling and your purpose lived out in your career. In fact, your career probably is going to change roles, businesses, move many times over. Sometimes out of your own choosing, but sometimes you're forced to accept change. You're having to reinvent yourself. So the calling, I used to think, I'm not being fulfilled in my calling. No, wait a second. It's my career, meaning I am here to provide a service, a product, to add value, to serve. And so I might be able to use some of my gifts there. I'm smart to use my gifts and strengths, but I'm also going to do what I have to do so I can do what I love to do. That statement will help you. I've taught that to my kids. In life, maturity Responsibility is do what you have to do so you can do more of what you love to do, or I would say what you're called to do. So pay your taxes, pay your bills, stay out of jail, do what you have to do. Show up to work on time, serve your boss, honor your boss, or understand what they value and get better at it. But I also understand that if all you do is serve others and fulfill a function and do what you have to do, life is very black and white, not colorful and dynamic. And so what I've learned is it's up to me to manifest and live out my calling, sometimes in my career, but many times on my own time and my own dime. Invest in yourself is what I'm saying. Okay? So let's talk about calling. I think about playing the piano and directing choir and praise teams. I love that. And I had a father who was a gifted, talented piano player, choir director, and then his mom, who he got it from, was gifted on the keyboard. And she was on radio in the 40s. My dad was on radio, and he was on TV in the 60s. And they were like icons to me. And then there were other men and women that were gifted musically in my church on TV. There was Michael W. Smith, who I just loved as a Christian artist, played the piano. There was David Foster, an icon in recording and music and piano. So I found people that inspired me. And that's a first step in discovering your calling. Put yourself in environments and have experiences that will inspire you. How do you know which experiences, environments to go to? Well, what you're doing is you're putting yourself in diverse environments and multiple experiences. Go to, you can watch on YouTube. You can go to different places to visit. You can go read different books and meet different people. And not all of them are going to be inspiring. But what you're doing is you're searching, you're casting your net, you're planting seeds, and then you're going to find what captures your attention. See, inspiration is much more powerful than motivation. If I've got to motivate myself, meaning motor, if I got to get the motor cranking, it tells me that's too hard. But inspiration breathes into what's already in you. Inspiring is you see something or meet somebody or hear something, experience something that captivates you. Why does it captivate? Because it's already in you. So the way to discover your calling is to put yourself with many different people. This is why being around the same people, doing the same things, going to the same places to eat is very monochromatic. You're not going to fully discover your purpose if you're just watching life go by and staying safe. You have to step out and experience other things, even things you don't like, even things that don't inspire you. And I saw my dad and my grandma, and I saw other people in the church and outside that inspired me. Even at 5 years old, I was inspired. So I started to play the piano at church and the organ. I'd go up there and play it. We had a piano at home. I started to play albums. And I'll tell you what, another way you know if you're called, this will help you, is when I saw my dad or Michael W. Smith or David Foster play or sing, or I saw my music pastor at the church direct the choir and arrange music, I got frustrated and disappointed. Frustrated and disappointed. Frustration isn't a bad thing. The frustration came because I knew where I was at and what I could do on the piano, playing in one key, C, no flats, no sharps, to seeing what they could do on the piano. I could see what I could do with an arrangement or directing the choir in my teenage years, but I saw what she did and what he did, and there was a gap. Look for the gaps between where you're at, what you can do, what you understand, and what you do not comprehend, what you have not attained. Now I'm going to get biblical with you. Book of Philippians, the Apostle Paul says, not that I've already attained it, but I press on towards the goal of Jesus Christ. There's the pressing. He's talking about a gap. I'm here. I've come a long way, but there's more to go. And that gap would frustrate me. It would push me. Over the years, people have seen me play the piano, and I'm not the greatest piano. There's people that play better than me, but I'm known for playing music and arranging music. I was in the recording studio, did all that. And people are like, you must have been so disciplined to practice. And I look at them and say, no, I wasn't. I'm like, how could you? Like, I would see people who did take the piano lessons, and they're like, I couldn't last more than 2 years. And I took piano lessons for 15 years. It wasn't, listen, it wasn't discipline that made me a master. It was frustration and curiosity that got me there. The frustration of there's more I could do and I'm not there, and the curiosity of what is that? It's a fascination, that drove me, compelled me to push through. So I did scales and arpeggios and diminished sevenths, and I did Bach and Mozart and Chopin, and I had multiple teachers. I did things by ear. I did things by note. People are like, how did you do all that? Music theory. It wasn't my discipline. It wasn't how smart I was. People have said, you're gifted. I don't know how gifted I was. I was just curious. I was passionate. And so what you're doing is you're looking for things that inspire you, frustrate you, capture your attention, and then you go after it. And don't let the frustration defeat you. Let it catapult you. And that's when you start to find. And before you know it, years have gone by, and you're still a student, you're learning, but you become a master. You become sought after because you could do things nobody else can do. You understand how things work better than anybody else. Okay? Now, I want to talk about the purpose of your purpose. The purpose of why you need to discover your purpose. One other way you can find what your calling is, and I talked about calling and career. I want to talk about calling and hobby. Like, I love basketball. I played basketball. Not very good, but I did. I love the Los Angeles Lakers. Come on, LeBron James. Come on, Magic Johnson. Come on, Kobe Bryant. And I get a lot of hate from my friends. I love the Lakers. But basketball is not a calling for me. It certainly wasn't a career. It's a hobby. It's all right to say, I'm fascinated about this. I love this. I'm into this, but this is not my calling. This is a hobby. Why is that important? A couple of reasons. The first thing is you won't grind and invest yourself in a hobby. You will for a calling. Now, you might like golf. I have friends who are golfers. I have some golf clubs that I played, but I'm not grinding there. I'm not spending money and time on lessons and all. It's not worth my time and money investment. Why? It's not a calling. It's a hobby. Basketball is not a calling. It's a hobby. So how do you define what's a hobby, a fascination, which is good. It's good to have hobbies, to a calling? I think your calling has to do two things. Number one, it has to honor God. And number two, it has to serve others. Your calling will fulfill you, but it's not about you. It's about honoring God and serving others. When I went from being a musician, choir director, recording producer, to starting a church, planning a church, which was 7 years set up, tear down in rented schools. And then we were able to raise the money and buy property and then build a building and build teams and leaders. And it was just awesome. And I wonder, did I love the music years more than the pastoring years? I don't know. I loved them both. But both honored God and served others. Now, I didn't like the set up, tear down for 7 years. I didn't like having to raise the money and give above and beyond my tithe and, putting in the work to lead. There was a lot of problems to solve, a lot of hard things. I was a pastor at that church for 14 years. So I've had pastors who were going for 4 or 5 years and like, oh, I hit a wall. I'm like, well, I hit walls too. Keep going. I went 14 years. What am I saying? The calling of saying this is bigger than me, that this is to honor God because he's put it in me for a divine purpose to honor him, even when it's hard. And it's to serve others. This isn't about building my name or my leadership or look how great I was. We were serving men and women and marriages and families and young people, and we were discipling people to become more like Jesus. We were meeting real felt needs in our community by helping with orphans and kids and elderly and poor and the underprivileged. We were building something that was going to serve an entire generation and community. So if the calling is bigger than you, then you will be able to withstand the calling. Because I'll tell you this, gifting and calling, I think, are different things. Your gifting will be used in your calling, but if you're just doing what you're gifted to do versus what you're called to do, your gift will only take you so far. When it's hard, you'll be like, I can do that. I can hit that 300-yard golf hit. I can hit that three-pointer basketball. I can play that piano. But if it's not serving a greater purpose than just making you look good or feel good, you won't last. What got me to go 15 years in music ministry and 14 years in pastoral ministry was not my gift, not my desire. It was a calling of, I'm honoring you with this, God, and I want to serve others. I want to help others discover your love, discover relationship. I want to help other pastors have the blessing of finding their calling. This is why I do this YouTube channel. This is more than just a hobby or fun. I feel a calling that I'm supposed to use my voice, my life experience, my passion, my expertise and experience to inspire, there's that word again, other people to embrace what they're called to. Okay, so put yourself in environments and experiences to see, what are you curious about? What frustrates you? What inspires you? Run after that. Don't be afraid of the gap of where you're at. Pursue it and learn it. And then ask yourself, is this serving just me or is it beyond me? Is this honoring God? And is it serving other people? And if you ask those questions and you keep putting yourself in those environments and keep doing what you love for the glory of God and the service of others, you will discover a clear purpose and you'll accomplish bigger things than you could ever do in your life. Hope this helps you. Love for you to subscribe and like this and share this. Hey, in the comments, tell me, what is your calling? And tell me what inspires you in your calling. I'd love to hear. God bless.